It started with laughter. The kind of laughter that made everyone in the private dojo pause mid-stretch and glance toward the man in the corner mopping the floor. He was wearing worn-out sneakers, an old gray hoodie, and a janitor's badge that read David M. Maintenance. He smiled quietly, finishing his work as the billionaire Aikido master Kenji Takahara, 8th Dan, world-renowned martial artist and tech mogul, rolled on the mat in front of a small crowd of his guests, but laughter turned into murmurs when Kenji's eyes narrowed toward the janitor. "You there," he said, his accent sharp and clear. "Do you know how to use that mop? Or do you only use it to eavesdrop?" The guests chuckled, but David didn't flinch. He kept his voice calm. "I know how to use it," he said, glancing up, "but I also know how to handle what it's meant to clean up." Kenji raised an eyebrow. Bold words for a janitor. David shrugged and started to walk away. That's when Kenji added, "Why don't you show us? Spar with me." The entire dojo fell silent. Cameras came up. Someone whispered, "Oh, this will be good." David looked back, his blue eyes calm but distant, as if he'd seen this sort of arrogance before. He set the mop aside, stepped onto the mat, and said softly, "Only if you promise not to cry." Laughter erupted again, this time louder. Even Kenji smirked, tying his black belt tighter. "All right then, janitor. Don't say I didn't warn you." What happened next silenced the entire room. Kenji moved first, a blur of speed, decades of mastery behind every step. But David didn't react like a beginner. He pivoted, deflected, redirected energy with such effortless grace that even Kenji froze mid-movement. His balance was broken, and before anyone could blink, David had him on the mat, face first, controlled but unharmed. The dojo gasped. The billionaire stared up at the janitor, disbelief in his eyes. David stepped back, bowed respectfully, and said, "You broke your own balance before I did." Then he quietly walked off the mat. That moment went viral. Someone had recorded it, and by morning, social media was ablaze with headlines like "Unknown Janitor Defeats Billionaire Martial Artist in Seconds." People wanted to know who he was. Reporters came. Security tried to protect David's privacy, but curiosity spread faster than fire. Kenji, embarrassed yet intrigued, had his assistant dig into the man's background. The report that came back changed everything. David Michaels wasn't just a janitor. He was a former U.S. Air Force pararescue operator, later recruited into a Joint Special Forces unit specializing in martial engagement and disarmament tactics. He had trained under masters in Japan, Thailand, and Brazil. But after his wife's death in a car accident 5 years ago, he'd left the world of combat and focused on raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. To pay the bills, he worked night shifts cleaning offices and gyms, including Kenji's dojo. The next morning, Kenji arrived early and found David already there, fixing a broken mirror. He approached quietly this time. "Why are you here, cleaning floors?" he asked. David didn't look up. "Because it's steady work, and it lets me get home before my daughter wakes up." Kenji stood silently for a long moment before saying, "You humbled me yesterday. But you also reminded me of something I've forgotten, that true strength isn't measured by wealth or title." David smiled faintly. "Strength isn't about fighting. It's about standing up again when life knocks you down." From that day, Kenji insisted David join his dojo, not as a janitor, but as an instructor. David refused at first, saying he had no time. But when Kenji offered to sponsor Lily's education and give David flexible hours, he agreed. Their friendship grew. David began teaching private self-defense classes for kids, veterans, and even executives. What started as a quiet gig turned into a movement of discipline, humility, and healing, but life tested them again. One night, the dojo caught fire due to an electrical fault. David rushed in before firefighters arrived, finding Kenji trapped under a beam. Despite the flames, he lifted it enough to drag the billionaire out, burning his own arm in the process. When asked why he risked his life, David said, "Because he's my brother now." You don't walk away from family. Months later, during the grand reopening, Kenji stood on stage before hundreds, with David and Lily beside him. He spoke into the microphone, his voice trembling. I once mocked a janitor, he said. But that man became my teacher, my savior, and my friend. He taught me that humility builds more strength than ego ever can. The crowd erupted in applause. Tears streamed down Lily's face as she hugged her father. At the end of the event, a journalist asked David, "If you could tell the world one thing, what would it be?" He smiled, the same quiet, humble smile he wore the first day in the dojo, and said, "Never judge someone by the uniform they wear. Some of the strongest souls clean the floors others walk on." He looked into the camera and added softly, "And if this story touched you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Because sometimes, the most powerful lessons come from the people we least expect." The screen faded to black with the gentle sound of Lily's laughter in the background, pure, hopeful, and full of the same strength her father carried in silence every single day. And for millions watching around the world, it wasn't just another viral video, it was a reminder that kindness, humility, and resilience are worth more than any black belt or bank account.